big problem I see people have is changing leads and then they're changing directions at the same time. And that'll really get your horse leaning. And I think most of these horses are broken up. You've got control of the hips. We want them to change from the rear forward. Because they'll change in the front a lot of times, and sometimes not in the back. But if they change in the rear, they're almost always changing in the front. But all these horses have enough hip on them. Where most of the trouble comes in is the shoulders. If they're leaning into that lead, like if you go to your right lead and change to your left and you're pressing with that right leg, they're dumping that shoulder in, and they can't get that hip pushed underneath themselves. You got to clear that shoulder so that hip can swing under and they can change. But a big problem from that is changing directions too many times. So we change leads in a straight line a lot. So we'll go up the circle and come out of the corner and change diagonally. So I'm going to pick them up, change them, and keep open that straight line before I go into that circle to keep them from leaning. Does that make sense? Because you kind of get some horses change, like going across and just pulling the other way, and some of the natural lead changers will change. But I want to be able to open a straight line, pick up those shoulders, clear that shoulder, get that hip underneath them, and get them changed. And obviously, if you've got their face, if you can keep that face and keep them bridled up in their background, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to change. If that head comes up and the back hollows out and their hind end's way back there, it's more difficult for them to change. You get control of that hip for sure. Anytime that the head goes above the withers, you lose control of those shoulders. We've got to be able to keep them there where you can control those shoulders. So that's a big important thing. And then as we get into it, I'll show you some more exercises that are really helpful for taking the anticipation out of that. And we do counter-cantering. I'll do a lot of changing from counter-canter to counter-canter. So I'll open them around, like if I'm on my right lead, I'll hold them in a counter-canter, and I'll come around and I'll change them. They'll think they're going this way because I'm changing, but then I'll pull them off this way. So change them and pull them off that opposite direction of the way you change them into, and that takes a lot of lean. I've had even some good show horses that, people had really a lot of problems with, and it was up here most of the time in the shoulders, just taking that lean out. And same with any of this stuff, your cow work, your spins, all of it is taking the lean out, the push and resistance. And that's our job. I kind of think about a sand the board. I'm sanding the board and I find a rough spot. Stop and smooth that out, and sand some more, you find another rough spot. It's taking the resistance out. If they're like a noodle off our hands and our legs and their face and shoulders and hips, they can do all this stuff. And you can get them stood up and do it correctly and they're free about it. Anytime there's lean, there's resistance. Normally starts with the face and then the body follows. If they're pushing lean shoulders, hips, again, shoulders are just a huge thing for the lead changes, the cow work, the turnarounds. A lot of it's in the shoulder. Because this is your drive right here. This is your power and your brakes. But they start leaning and think and turn. So riding a horse is not like riding a bike. If you want to turn, you lean. That's not what we want with the horse. We want them to stand up and curl around and turn.